Welcome back to Vickie's Country Home. It's been a couple weeks since I've given you an update on my garden, and things are looking a little bit different. So let's go out and take a look at what's growing.
Hey, Smudger. Hi, baby. Hi there, little baby. What? You gonna get up in the garden? Are you? My flowers are planted. They're looking beautiful. There's T-Rex. These are in the shade, so they're kind of hard to see, but these are really pretty. And this miniature rose almost looks like porcelain. The petals just don't even look real. And that's my little smudge kitty. He's one of our barn cats. He's an outside cat. My grapevines have come back, and I didn't get them pruned well, but I did cut out some of the old growth so that they're doing better. And I've got grapes out there. In fact, there's 3 or 4 clusters on this Chardonnay right here. I even have one on that little bitty Cabernet over on the right. But these others are table grapes, and they're all really good. So they're doing well. I still have not built new cages to keep the critters out. And as a result, the antelope have been eating the leaves. But so far, minimal damage, and I can deal with that. This peach tree has a lot of peaches on it, and they're all looking beautiful. And I was gonna put these little bags to keep the birds and the antelope from eating them, but there's so many. It would just be crazy to try and get them put on all there. So yesterday, by myself, I mostly got this netting up here, and there's a couple of spots that are sticking out. But for the most part, well, nope, this one is too. I've got to redo that. But for the most part, I've got it covered, and you can see the peaches on there, and they are wonderful peaches. So I want to protect them. Every year, I lose so many to the birds and the antelope and the deer, and I don't want to do that this year. So I got to come back and fix right there. They say this stuff's easy to put on. They lie. They lie. And this tree's not tall. It's maybe 8 to 9 feet tall, but it's really big around, and I just had to keep adding sections to it, but I'll get it done. And these are the herbs that I have in pots up against the house. My oregano, I've got a couple of lemon balm, thyme, and mint. And maybe somebody knows what this is. I don't know if these are volunteer or if they are something I planted a few years ago, but they keep coming back. And I pulled a bunch of them out of other pots this week, but I'll leave a few and we'll see if we can figure out what it is. But if you do, let me know. And these are my honeyberries that I got planted in that giant rock that I dug up. And they're doing good. They're probably getting their roots established. They're not growing a whole lot right now. And this is a currant, and I have another one that a friend gave me, and I intend to plant it in that hole, but I haven't had a chance to pry that big old rock out of there yet. So that's a project still to do. And then to dig a hole over here and hope and pray there's not another big old rock. Really, I've had enough this year. And this is the vegetable garden. And it looks a lot different than the last time I showed you. But these tomatillos, this tomatillo I bought and planted here, but I had already planted seedlings. And every year I've bought the seedlings and they've just been very slow going. And everything I've read says start with a seedling and plant it inside and bring it out. I'm not going to do that anymore. These were all seeds that I planted, and it took a couple weeks for them to germinate, but this is about a week and a half's worth of growth. They were maybe that big the last time, but they have all just taken off. They're already starting to bud out. But this one is well established and it's making tomatillos already, tons of them, so that's exciting. And my tomatoes in pots are mostly doing just amazing. This is Aroma, and those two are Aroma that I started in toilet paper tubes late in the season, but I got them planted inside, and look at how large they've gotten. These two are just starting to bloom. And that one I purchased and it's been blooming, has a few tomatoes on it. But this little Persuasion tomato that I bought is not doing much. It really, I think we may have a couple of new leaves, but it really hasn't grown in probably a month. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But the okra in front of it's starting to grow. And I have okra in these two and some basil. And those seem to be doing well planted together. So that experiment's working. And I have some herbs down here and they're starting to grow and getting well established. And then I tucked some kale and cabbage in here. And they're just doing amazing. So I'm really happy with that. I'm going to harvest some of that kale. And it looks beautiful. These are Aroma tomatoes, and two of these I started myself, and then two of these I bought to replace ones that got damaged in our freezes. They're all doing well. They're all blooming and making fruit, so that's good. Then I've got red beans, and these are out of the grocery store, just red, I think they were kidney beans, and I just planted them in between and around here. Now I got inspired by Mrs. Lori because she just tucks things in everywhere. I never had because I was worried about our water usage here, and we have so much evaporation and lose so much that I was afraid that these would not work well together, but so far the things I'm planting together, it's actually helping shade the plants and keep them from having as much evaporation. So far this is looking great. So those are all red, like I said, I think they're kidney beans. And then my rhubarb is finally growing, especially that one. That one's doing amazing. This one's just getting going. And behind it, I've planted sunflowers because I knew these wouldn't get big this year, so I figured I'm going to go ahead and get my sunflowers wherever I can get them. So I've got a mixture back there, and they finally come up and are starting to grow, and one little nasturtium right up here. I love nasturtiums. They're beautiful, and I love to put them in salads. The peppery taste is just so good. This is the older part of the garden, and these I planted early from ones I bought, and they are all making lots of tomatoes. This is Sun Gold, so they're little cherry style. Back there is Celebrity, and it's got tons of tomatoes, and I've got onions down there, big beef. I have Cherokee Purple, and these two are beefsteak, and they're not that big. I planted them later, That one from a seedling I grew, and that one from when I purchased, but they're blooming, they're doing well. I've got more onions down here and chard, and some of it was bolting, and I'm still going to pull some more. But I'm not pulling it all at once because I'm taking it to the chickens and the goats and letting them have a snack. So every day I'll cut some more out and take it over to them. But I've got other new chard planted in among it, so I'll have more chard coming from here too. But it also helps shade and keep this really well, growing well. So I'm happy with that. I've let my asparagus go to fern. It didn't make a lot this year, but once I let it go, it just took off and more was coming up. And this is good because it's going to make a lot of energy to store for next year. So asparagus is coming back. Over here I've got, this area was the potatoes that I came up from 2 years ago, and I transplanted some that were further down, so they're all in this area. But also I stuck in some cabbages, some more kale, and some sugar snap peas, and this one was a volunteer, but I've got one or two coming up, so we'll see how those do in there. And all this green among them is purslane. And it's a weed, but it's also a very nutritious weed, so I let it grow in places and I pull it out in places. And this year I'm experimenting to see if you let it go in certain places, is it gonna give a mulch effect? And in some places it is. Some plants it really seems to be helping. So I'm letting it kind of go crazy here, but I'm going to pull some of it out because it's just getting overwhelming, like right there. That was where the broccoli was, and it totally squeezed the broccoli. The broccoli got killed by it. So that didn't work. But my beets that I kept having trouble growing are now coming up through this. I've got some more little ones right there. So again, I'm going to thin it out, but I'm going to leave it because first of all, we can eat it. It is a vegetable that we can eat, but also it seems to be helping keep the moisture in. So that seems to be working. This artichoke is finally getting growing, and again, I don't know how they're going to do here, but I'm giving it a try. And it may not do anything this year, and I may just heavily mulch it this winter. And hopefully next year we'll have some artichokes. But I also planted sunflowers all through here. So those are all growing well, and they're going to get super tall, I hope, and be beautiful. There's another of my sun gold tomatoes, and it's got tons of blooms on it. Got some fruit, but I'm going to come out here and smack it around because that helps set fruit. Helps pollinate. So I did that last year, and I got a lot more tomatoes just by doing that because the blooms, I don't know if you could, they face down, and they will self-pollinate in the wind, which we have a lot of, but I think you get more when you help it along. And these grow bags are some of my winter squash, and another experiment because they weren't doing well in the ground last year. So I'm going to see how they do in these grow bags. And it's like planting in hills because it's all raised and concentrated. But these are delicata squash, and those 4 are butternut. And I got all of these from Azure Standard, and I'm really happy with them. And even with the squirrels who kept coming in and eating the leaves down. They're still making it. So doing well, and hopefully I've gotten the squirrels, or will get them, and that's my squirrelinator trap out there. And I just did a video on that, so if you have a squirrel problem and you cannot, if your garden keeps getting destroyed, this seems to work. So these are my peas, and I'm growing them in these tomato cages, and they're doing wonderful. And I'm getting tons of peas already. I don't know if you can see them. I still have to harvest those this morning. But they're doing great. I've got my carrots, and I still need to thin some of those because they're still pretty heavy. Radishes are doing well and so sweet and tasty. We've been eating on those. It's time to put some more seeds in for that. My crazy oregano that I'm going to have to cut back for probably the second time this season, and I dug out about 3/4 of it to start the season, so it just loves that spot. My leeks, and that is Swiss chard that's self-seeded from last year. And I don't know why this keeps trying to focus. Sorry about that. And that's all among my peppers, which again we're slow going getting started, but now it's getting hot and they're all starting to do really well. These are more peppers, and again the purslane has just been going nuts right here. I am starting to thin it some because over there you'll see the plants are a little bit bushier. And those are jalapeno. These are serrano, so they're different types. But I think there's too much here, so I'm going to be pulling some of that out so that they can get a better growth. A tomato, and that is a coreopsis that I planted and helped for pollinating. And there's no blooms right now, but it has been blooming, so that's good. But I am getting a few peppers over there, and I've got blooms on these peppers. So now that we've got warmth, things are really starting to come along. I'm letting this spinach go to seed, and then I'm going to reseed this area. And this is all lettuce that the squirrels had eaten to the ground. But some of it is growing back, so I'm going to let that go and see how it works. And I put more seeds in there, and it's just not doing much because I think it's too warm. My strawberries are hanging in there in this heat, and that is mustard greens from last year that reseeded, and I'm just letting that one little plant go to seed also. And then I have more peas. These are zucchini and yellow crookneck squash that I put in there from seed, and they're just starting to get going. And I planted them again fairly close together, so I'm going to see how that works. These are all cantaloupe that I reseeded for the third time, because every time they came up and I had seedlings, the squirrel ate them to the ground. Hopefully it's early enough that they will still make some melons, but we'll just have to see on that. My watermelon is really starting to take off, and it's blooming. I don't think it's pollinated yet, but hopefully we'll get some little sugar baby watermelons. And I did pull out my garlic this week, but I've still got onions in there, and my Egyptian walking onions, and I need to pull some of those, but they're all doing really good. The squash in those grow bags is not doing as well, and I know a lot of it is, and you can see the damage where they have been eaten by the squirrels, and there just hasn't been any leaves left to really
grow. And I've also had a lot of damage to these pumpkins. Now that one is the worst, and I need to pull weeds and purslane here. But these are doing a little bit better, and I'm hoping that now that I'm getting the squirrels under control that I'll be able to get some pumpkins out of there, and some acorn squash also, because again they got to all of those things. But these are, well, this is one of the acorn squash in the grow, and that one's doing okay. The others not so much. My spaghetti squash is barely hanging on, but hopefully they'll come back. My raspberries here, these grow on last year's growth, so most of these are fairly new that came up, so they won't have any raspberries on them this year, but I do have a few. But over here are raspberry and blackberries, and I think it's the blackberries that are really doing just amazing this year. I'll try and show you, but I've got a whole bunch of those that have bloomed, are still blooming, and are making fruit. So really happy about that. I'm going to have to cover them with something to keep the birds out because they will eat all of them. But let's see. There's a lot of them forming. And these two are two of the new garden beds I put in this year, and it's been slow getting started. I seeded these probably close to a month ago, but the wind kept blowing all the mulch off. So the seeds just weren't coming up. But the wind has calmed down some, although we still are having some strong winds, but not 30 miles an hour every day, Vickie, because that was really challenging. But now I have okra coming up, and some Swiss chard is finally poking up through there. A raspberry that I'm going to have to yank out. And I did have yesterday some kale right there. And something ate it last night. I just saw that. So whatever's out here, there's still something that's eating. It's so challenging. And in this bed, again, I've got okra down the middle. And this is going to be some butter crunch lettuce. There's a little bit finally coming up, and I'm hoping it continues and nothing eats it. Those are all pinto beans. And if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I use those for green beans, and they make wonderful green beans when you harvest them young. Then I can let them go to seed at the end of the season, make more seed, or use it for dry beans. But I have better luck with pinto beans than I've ever had with any other green bean. This is my biggest tomato bed, and I did have cucumber there, along with cucumbers in other places, and the squirrels ate every one of the plants. I have no cucumber plants. I have a couple of stems poking up, but they're not going to make it. So that's a mortgage lifter, and I've never grown them before. But a friend gave me this, and she loves them, so we're going to see how it does. The plant's getting pretty big, so that's really good. I've got, again, pinto beans planted throughout this bed, all among the tomatoes, because I want as many green beans as I want to can a lot of green beans this year. Got Cherokee purple tomatoes, black creme, I don't remember. These are more black creme. This is kryptonite, and this is one I bought, and it's got tomatoes on there, these little deep purple. And I don't think they're done yet. They don't feel ripe. Again, lots of pinto beans planted in here. I had Boxcar Willie, and I think that's a bean back there, but I think I lost all of those. But I have Cherokee Purple here. This one's called Lava Flow, and I already got one from that, and it was just really beautiful colors, and it was really good tasting. So now that tomato's off of it, that plant's just taking off. Got San Marzano and Roma tomatoes all through here. And again, they were slow getting going, partly because of the very cool temperatures, but also the mulch kept being blown off and water just was not staying at the roots. So I've put more mulch on, and as you can see, a lot of it's already blown off. But it's still got some on there, and the plants are also helping to shade it and keep it from evaporating as quickly. So that is my vegetable garden. And it is looking beautiful, other than getting plants eaten by critters. But for the most part, it's doing so much better this year and so much bigger. So I'm really hoping I can harvest a lot of food and put it away and have some really wonderful food all summer. I am so thankful that we haven't had the major problems with the grasshoppers this year. The squirrels are challenging, but we will get through that too. And having this larger garden is just such a blessing for us. So I hope you enjoyed joining me in this garden tour. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends. It really helps me out. Thank you for watching. God bless, and we will talk soon.